In this video, we'll focus on improvements around form creation in Bonita 7.9. So previously in Bonita, we were able to generate forms based on process and step contract in order to initialize new business variable. So that's basically the SQL insert operation. Now in this new version, we provide some toolings to create a form that will let you edit the value of a business variables using a form. The edition is still based on the contract information, but at the same time, it will let you view some variables, so some attributes of the business variables. So basically, this feature will generate for you forms variables initialized with the business variable's value. This forms variable will be automatically generated with the appropriate REST API call to get the value of the business variable. And then this form variable will be bound to two different kinds of widgets. Widget for edition, like for example an input widget, a date picker, and so on. Or if the attribute is not part of the contract, the variable can be displayed in a read-only way, the attribute of the variable, using a text array widget. So this will be read-only. You can still aggregate all the user inputs in a single form variable. This is the output variable that is bound to the submit button widget, and this will be used to send the data and to populate the contract value. Also, we have various other improvements regarding forms. It's now includes automatically, when generated using the studio, an area to display any error related to the submission. For example, if a contract is not valid, or for any reason, maybe if the server is no longer available, the error will be displayed to the user in this area. And we also generated some validation rules on the mandatory attributes of the contract. So we accept null value for any attribute of the contract for a complex data. But if there is a mandatory attribute, we have a constraint that will perform the validation. Also, there is some improvement regarding form creation in the UI Designer. We have now a new AngularJS filter that will make usage of lazy attribute easier. Basically, lazy attributes are a way to only load the minimum amount of data in the form for better performance, but when needed, you can load the attribute, the full data about the attribute of an object. So it's basically easier with this filter. You can refer to the documentation for more detail on that. We have the file viewer widget that was available only in Enterprise Edition that is now available in the Community Edition. We added a new property for the text widgets to display a label on this text widget, because we use it when we display a value in read-only. And finally, we improve the button that can be used to submit a task. You know that when the user is in the portal, in order to prevent concurrent action submission of a task that can be performed by the set of candidates, the user needs to assign to claim the task, and then it can actually submit the form. If the form is displayed outside the portal, like for example in a living application or in an iframe in another application, it doesn't bring this feature of being able to claim the task. So now it's possible to define the button as performing this claim action. So it will actually perform two REST API calls, one to assign the task, to claim the task, and the second to actually submit the task with the form data. Also, when this button is clicked, for different reasons, the call might fail. And in such situation now, you have a property to store the HTTP response code after the button was clicked, and you might want to display different error message, for example, based on this code. A few more improvements still in the UI Designer, a few more slides, and then we'll all see that into details in a short demo. So the switch widget is an option to basically change from one type of widget to another. For example, you might have a duration number of years that is a basic text widget, an input widget, and you maybe want your user to pick the value actually from a drop-down list. And if you have all configured properly your input widget, it can be painful to add the other widget and do all over the configuration. So basically this new feature will let you switch to the widget, but without losing the configuration. So we'll have a quick demo on that shortly. We also now provide a solution to create your custom widget based on the widget we provide by default. For example, if the input widget doesn't exactly answer your need, if you need to do a little bit of tuning, you can start from the source code of the input widget we provide, save your own copy, and do the customization, and then use this custom widget in the form. Also, in the preview in the UI Designer, we have a new option to preview pages using the application theme. So you know that you can customize the look and feel of an application, and now you can't actually apply the theme of the application in the preview. So to have really the final look and feel of the final rendering of your application in the preview. We bring also another option to open the preview in a new tab of the web browser. This allows, for example, to copy paste the URL and open the preview in different web browser to make sure that the rendering is correct on all the different web browsers your user might use. So enough talking, and let's have a quick demo about this. So I have my studio here with a basic business data model. My business data model includes two different business objects. One is a loan request with just a very basic example, so an amount and a description. And the other one is a loan offer. So this time also with an amount, but with a duration. And I have as well a basic process. And this process includes two business variables, one for the loan request and one for the loan offer. And the user, the customer, will start the process, will create a loan request, will initialize a loan request. Then the request can be reviewed and edited. The description might be edited here. And a loan offer will be created as well in this step. In the next step, we only want to display the loan offer, the loan request, sorry. And the loan offer should be fully editable. And finally, the process ends with a notification to the customer. So now let's have a look about the evolution when we create actually the contract and the forms. So if I switch to execution here on my contract, so instantiation contract, I still have this option to create the contract from the object. So here my loan request, you can see I have a new option here, the action. So for an instantiation contract, I can only choose instantiate here. It's the start of the process. I cannot edit the business variable because it's not yet created. So I will create the loan request here. And I have two attributes. I have the amount that is mandatory, and I have the description that is optional. And if I display the preview of the initialization script of the default value of my business variable, you can see that now this script will not fail if the loan request input is empty, so it's accept empty value, but we'll see in the constraint that for mandatory attribute, we have a constraint generated. So amount is mandatory, description is not. So I have one constraint for the amount, and the amount must not be null. Now let's generate the form based on this. So here you have the form, my loan request. The amount is a mandatory widget, the description is optional. And you can see that I have two variables here, the form inputs with the initial value displayed in my form, and the form output that is associated with the submit button and reuse the form input value. You can see as well the error message I was referring to. It will use the form output submit error attribute that is set by the submit button if an error happens. You can see here in the settings, and it will display a list of error. This list is built using a JavaScript expression defined here in this form variable. So this is for the instantiation form. Now let's have a look at this form where we want to review and edit the request and where we want to create the loan offer. So on the loan request here, I will choose edit, and I want only to allow the edition of the description. And here I can click on finish, and just remind me that some of the attribute will not be set by this operation. Go. And I will actually add another one for the loan offer, and this one is a new object, so I will choose instantiate here. So it's generated as previously the operation for me, updating the various attributes of the business variables. But now what is different is when I will create the forms, it offers me the option to display read-only attribute of my loan request. So basically the amount of my loan request that is not part of the contract can be displayed in the generated form. So if I click yes here, you can see that the description is editable. I have an input widget, but the amount here is a text widget. You can see it from here. Loan offer is an instantiation, so it's both editable. Form input here will be used to initialize the loan request information. The loan offer information, because the object doesn't exist yet. But for the loan request, we have actually a dedicated form variable that do the proper call to the REST API to get the values. And in this form, what we can see as well in the submit button, as I said, we using the form output variable, and the form output variable is a JavaScript expression that will put together the loan request variable and information about the loan offer stored in the form input variable. So it aggregates the addition of the existing variable and the new value for the new variable, for the instantiation of the new variable. You can see as well on, for example, this duration here widget. I have an input widget. As I said, I can switch to a different kind of widget easily. For example, if I want to have a select widget, I can display side by side the property of my input widget and my select widget. You can see that the common property are automatically binding to each other. Sorry. The disable attribute, for example, of a select widget should be mapped usually to the read-only option of the input, so I can do this manually. As both the property have different name, I can do this manually. I see, for example, also that I have a properties such as available values that doesn't exist in an input widget but exist in the select widget. So we'll need to set this manually after switching the widget. So for example, here I can provide the list of possible values of my drop-down list. If I want, I can also, using this menu, create a custom widget, as I said. So here I can view the code of the widget, and I can save my copy using the Save As button, save my copy of the input widget, and do some customization. So now I have the first step form. Let's do the last one here. So in this one, I want to display the request and allow edition of the offer. So I will choose the offer here and select the edit operation and click on finish. I want to be able to edit both attributes. And as you can see here, the contract is only used when you instantiate or edit data. So if I build the form from this contract, I will only have widgets related to the loan offer because I don't edit the loan request. If I want to display the loan request here, I will need to do this manually. I cannot do it automatically in the current version of Bonita. It's something that will bring in a future version of Bonita, being able to build all the forms based on the business variable of the process. Also, one improvement I didn't mention in the slides is about the assets included in forms and pages. You can see here that we can include CSS style sheets to customize the look and feel, for example, of this particular form. When you have several of them, you might want to sort them to give priority of one style sheet over another one. For example, here I can also display all the extra style sheet included by default by Bonita. And so I can define the priority. So Bonita brings Bootstrap and the theme of the default theme, but you can add your custom style sheet here and sort the priority. So finally, if we took a look at the preview of this form here, I do the preview with the default look and feel here. If I deploy an application from my studio with a custom look and feel, I have, for example, here an application. I will deploy this application, and then in the preview, I'm able to use the theme defined for this application to have the appropriate rendering for the preview. So just need to wait a little bit for my custom theme to be deployed here. It's usually the first build of a custom theme is a little bit longer because it downloads some dependency in order to build the theme, but future build after that will be a lot faster. So now my application is deployed with the custom theme. So if I get back to the UI Designer here, you can see that in the preview, I get the look and feel of my application. And if I select, you can see, for example, that the background color here is changing. So that lets me apply the exact look and feel that that will be used, for example, to display my forms. So that's it for the evolution in the UI Designer, and now we'll see the evolution brings by Bonita 7.9 related to Portal. So in Bonita 7.9 we have improvement on the portal. Now we we are aiming to build all the portal using the UI Designer. These have several benefits, including that with the UI Designer we are able to create some responsive web user interface. So we'll make the portal a full responsive web application. So in this release we add a new page to deal with the import and export of the Bonita organization. So this is now made with the UI Designer, and it includes a few little improvements, especially regarding error management. If you use an inappropriate format for the XML file, for example, you will get some warnings and be able to more easily understand what is going wrong. But the biggest part of this evolution is about the Bonita layout. So the layout of an application. It's created using the UI Designer, and the one we provide by default, the new one we provide by default, can be exported from Bonita portal, and then it can be imported in Bonita Studio. This new layout will allow you to display various information, including the user custom information. We'll have a short demonstration on this one. And finally, once it's embedded in the UI Designer, you can fully edit it. It's using some custom widget, but most important, it's responsive, and it provides a feature that will display the list of all available applications. So let's do immediately a quick demonstration on this one. So I will go in Bonita Studio here and open the Bonita portal. I'll go in the administration view, and among the resources here, I can find the various layouts, and I can download the Bonita layout offered here. So this one is the latest version of the layout. You can find the previous version below. So I will export this one. I get this zip file. Now let's open the UI Designer to import the file and do some customization. Clicking the import button, get the file we just download. And now I have the layout available here, and I can open it and do some customization. You can see, for example, it will display the application name, username, the information about the users, and also using some custom widget, the list of the applications available. And user information includes username, email address. You let the user select the language you want to use. The application list provides some filters to display application available for only one specific profile, and filtering also based on an application name. So once I have my layout in the application descriptor here in Bonita Studio, I can choose to use this layout for my application. So here, instead of the Bonita layout, I can use the one I created myself. So actually it's this one, it is a new one. And then when I will deploy my application, it will use the new custom layout. So you can see here in the top bar, in the menu bar, I have my username. If I click on it, I can switch to different languages supported by Bonita. I can log out as well. Same happen here on the icon. It's all the same menu, but here, most importantly, I have the list of applications I currently have access, and I can filter by profile or by name. So this is the new default layout, and it can be, as you see, fully customized. So next we'll see how we can customize themes from Bonita Studio. So in Bonita 7.9, the studio brings a new feature to be able to create a theme for Bonita application directly within the studio without requiring any external tooling. So you can create them, edit them, and deploy them directly from the studio. Usually you start as based on the new theme is based on the Bonita default theme, and it will be customized just by editing a few variables. We are using Sass to define the style sheet, and the project of a theme is actually a nested project. So in your global Bonita project, we'll have one Maven project per theme. Also now in this version, you can use custom theme and layout in the community edition. So when you create the application descriptor of your application and when you edit it in Bonita Studio, you are able to define the layout and the theme to be used for your application. So let's have a look about how we create a new theme for our application. So here in the studio, I will just go in the menu and select this new entry theme here. I can give a name and description and the usual identification for any Maven artifacts. So I will keep the default here, and this will create me a theme project. So usually the first file you want to open is in the sources. You will go for this Bonita variable file, and it's the list of the variables override by the Bonita theme. You can see a full list of available variables in the file mentioned here, but in this example we'll keep it very simple and we'll just customize the background. So here I will use light gray for the background instead of the default white color. So if I save this here, now I can build my theme. Here I have this build entry. Then I will be able to use the theme in my application. So here I have an example application. I'll just wait for the builds to finish. Usually the first build of the theme can be a little bit slow because it will download and install some dependencies, but next building of the theme go a lot faster. So if I open my application descriptor here in Bonita Studio, I'll be able to select the theme I just built. So I will change from here's the theme, so I can use the custom theme I just built. You can see that we have the default one of Bonita here, but if I use this one and deploy the application, so now my application is deployed with my custom theme, and if I open it, instead of the white background, you can see that I get this light gray background that is coming from my custom theme. So that's it for the video about the improvements on Bonita Forms, portals, and Bonita Studio enhancement for this version 7.9. In the upcoming video, we'll speak more about the Bonita engine and newly available feature for testing within our labs.